So David, how did you find out about loan signings initially? Like what was the first time you've heard about it?
I never actually heard about it, John, other than I saw your video. And I had never
We were the
heard of,
first time?
yes, I'd never heard of it. I mean, I've had, car titles notarized. I've been to the
Right.
bank, had a few things notarized. That's all I knew. And I thought, well, they just stamp and write their name and they charge you $2 at the bank. So this must must not be much of a paying job. And when I followed your
True.
video and I did some research, I was totally surprised that it's a huge industry. It's like a hidden industry. And
It is.
I'm thankful and grateful that I found you, because it's made all the difference in the world.
Yep.
And whether you're young or old or retired, or it doesn't matter, anybody can do this.
And you know what, David, we get a lot of emails all day. Notaries only make $2 a signature, $4 a signature. This is a sham or something. And it's like, no, like you're right for notaries, but we're not restricted. And so when you understand that, and you understand where the transactions are, and you understand there's a business, and you actually put faith in the system and process and people that are actually trying to help others in this business, then the little light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my God, like $150. I mean, you did a closing for 8 minutes the other day, made great money. And you're like, the wheels start to turn of like, oh my God, like now I understand why people can make $1,000, $2,000 in a day.
And what's fantastic, John, is you go to the mailbox, there's a check, you open up your computer and you can print checks off your computer.
Right.
There's a check and you've got money coming in, and you're going, this is wonderful.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little cash flow. It trails just a little bit, but once you start doing signings and then the checks start coming, and it's just like signings check, and it just sort of cycles and just sort of follows you a little bit. And as long as you're working with great companies, you're going to get paid. If you work with terrible companies, you're going to be chasing payment. And so we help people sort of distinguish between those and kind of help them out. Now, David, from the first conversation that we had, you wanted to supplement your income and make a great living. Are you a little surprised at how quickly you were able to see success? We literally just talked about you're just a couple of months in and you started getting calls like a few days after the program.
Right.
Are you surprised that you're like, hey, you know what? I'm a couple months in and I'm really there. Like you're seeing success. I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised because I understand how the business works and how to map it out. But can you talk about how you felt? Are you surprised at all or not so much?
Well, I was a little surprised at the amount of business out there. And then I thought, this is a huge pie, and I'm just starting. I'm just skimming just a little bit off the top. Mm-hmm. And now I understand that the possibilities are limitless and endless, because when you start working direct with title companies and companies that give you higher signings, and like you had advertised, you can make $75 to $200 on these signings. And I started out at 100 up, because I decided I was not going to leave the house for less than 100.
Yeah, it's a good call.
And so that's what I chose. So I didn't take any of the low-paying signings, which I think is a mistake. You got to value yourself. And like you said in the training, you're worth the money, and I'm worth it. And so I decided, so I decided 100. So, and then they, what I love, you can negotiate and you can get your fees up. And the more you help, the more they send you work. And then when you get working with title companies, you start getting up into the 150, 200s, and sometimes 300 and 400. So that's my goal and objective. And I mean,
and so there's like a process to that, like we teach. Right. It's not like, we had Andy in Seattle, and she started hitting $400 bills right out of the gate. Right. And I was like, we worked with her and told her how to do it. And she's like, I'm going for it. And she had some connections and she made it happen. The most I've ever heard of was 600 in a closing. Wow. We had Oscar on our team. I don't know if you've heard of this, maybe a couple months ago, but Oscar did a $600 closing. I personally did a closing for a lady in St. Pete who used to be a signing agent. She's done 3 $600 closings in a day. Orders are still out there. We're conservative at 75 to 200, but we're also realistic. We don't tell people, hey, come here for these orders, and if they don't get them, they're going to be disappointed. So they're there and you can work for them, but we don't ever advertise that. We're very conservative at 75 to 200. But because you were getting calls right out of the gate, and we teach people where to find the millions and millions of transactions out there every year. And then on top of that, those are just loan transactions, David. I think 35% of all real estate deals are cash. So that's still, there's like another 3 million on top of that. So I estimate about 10 million transactions a year across America.
Yeah.
When you look at that pie, like you said, that's a significant number,
Yeah.
right? So for people that say, hey, I'm not busy enough, well, it's not the market, it's you. Because you're in the middle of nowhere in New York and you're seeing success because you know exactly where to get the orders, how to get to the top of the list as we teach you, and how to sort of cultivate that relationship. And you're like, all right, the orders are there, I'm making it happen. And you believe in the process, you believe in the system, and you're
I know it works.
That.
Yeah,
you
I know it
works.
works.
It works because you're working, you're putting in the work.
And the more busy you are, the busier you get, you know, because it motivates you.
Big time. They know.
It motivates you to get out and do more. I mean, if you do 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then they call and say, I got one at 6, I'm like, yes.
Yep.
You know,
and you get more and more calls,